If you've been considering a trip to the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, today's episode is for you. We are two Phoenix locals sharing all the details on best places to stay using points, things to consider before you book your trip, and much more. Tune in. Hi, I'm Rhea.
And I'm Dwayne.
And we are your hosts of the Travel Party of Five podcast, where we share how we travel as a family of five around the world.
We will also share how we use points and miles to travel as affordably as possible and sometimes even completely free.
So if you're wanting to travel more with your family, but you're not sure how, we'd love for you to listen in.
So welcome to our podcast where we hope you learn a thing or two to get you closer to your next trip.
Hello, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Happy Monday to all of you. If it is Monday when you're listening to this, maybe it's not. But we are jumping in right to the main topic of today's episode, which is all about Phoenix. So if you've been planning a trip or already have a trip booked, we're going to give you the details on best places to stay using points, a lot of which we've stayed at ourselves so we can share personal experience, and maybe some things to consider that you might not have known about the Phoenix area. So before we jump in, I figured we could just share how long we've lived in Phoenix. So I have been here since actually my first day living in Phoenix was January 1st, 2011. And so it has been a little over 13 years for me. And how about you?
I moved here in August of 1999. So 25 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes.
And you moved to Phoenix from Japan.
From Japan, the motherland.
What was that like for you? Because you were what, like 18, 19?
Yeah, I was 18, straight out of high school. Came here to go to ASU. Yeah, it was crazy. My parents left me, went back to Japan, and I had all this freedom.
But what was it like going from like Tokyo to Phoenix? Because they are very different.
I mean, yes, very, very different.
Were you even thinking about that as an 18-year-old? No.
I mean, the only thing I remember is that when I moved here, I thought, holy shit, these roads are huge.
The roads are huge. Yes. Are the roads in Japan really small?
Really small.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay, so you want to visit Phoenix. So we're going to give you a quick rundown of the Phoenix area. We'll share some of our favorite places to stay. And I think this is part one of what may be a two-part series. Maybe there will end up being more than two parts to the series. But my thought was it would be cool to do a special series on Arizona because one, we live here, but also two, we have traveled within the state a good amount. And so I feel like we have a lot of knowledge, especially because this is a pretty popular place for people to visit. So TBD on how many episodes will be in this Arizona series, but for sure we've got two planned. If there's any more than two, it probably won't be anytime soon, but I do know today's episode is on Phoenix, and next week we will be sharing some trips you can take from Phoenix, so both day trips or overnight trips. And if you're doing an overnight trip, we will share some options to stay on points that we personally have used. So before we get into the different areas within Phoenix that you might want to stay in, there's a few things to consider before you start planning a trip. Those things are, number one,
weather.
The weather. Tell us about the Phoenix weather, Dwayne.
I mean, you definitely don't want to come here in the summer. It's brutal. Shoot, this year we've done over 100 days in a row of 100 degrees or more, which is, it's brutal. It's not very
pleasant.
Pleasant, yes. I was going to say polite.
It's also not polite. How
No.
rude.
No.
How rude. Yes, Phoenix is incredibly hot during the summer. It is the desert. And so I think if you're wanting to go hiking or spend a lot of time outdoors, I would not come in the summer.
definitely not.
The other thing, though, that I think maybe people don't realize because they think of it as a warmer climate, which it is, but it can also be kind of cold here in the winter. So, I mean, it's not going to snow for the most part, but our lows at night in the winter can be in the 30s. And sometimes we have freezes, which I think is surprising to some people.
Which for someone that's lived here for 25 years, that's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. January, I think, is probably our coldest month. We often get a good amount of rain also in January. So if you're wanting to spend time poolside, I would not plan on coming in December or January unless you're cool with swimming when it's like, I don't know, 60, 70 degrees. Maybe if you're Canadian or something, that's fine for you, but that's not fine for me.
Or if you stay at a resort, the pool is
I mean, they say
heated.
pools are heated, but like, I don't know.
It's when you get out of the pool.
Yeah. So best time of year for more mild weather is going to be October through April or May. Again, factoring in what we just said about December, January being fairly cold. If you do want to come in the summer, I will say the one positive thing is that that's when you can find the best prices on hotels, because summer is our off season, which I know can seem backwards, but no one wants to come here in the summer. So you can really get some hotels for cheap. So if you are planning to come in the summer, I would check the cash price of the hotel before you use points, because it might actually make more sense to pay cash.
But if you do decide to come in the summer, there are some things you can do with or without kids. First, I mean, you would have to stay at a nice hotel with a nice pool, because being by the pool or poolside during the summer is actually pretty great. The heat isn't too bad when you're sitting by a pool. Beyond that, I would do indoor activities. So think of like children museums, Chandler, Scottsdale malls, pretty big, if shopping is your forte.
The Chandler and Scottsdale malls are both like pretty fun, I would say. And Chandler specifically has some stuff for kids. Like they have a Crayola exhibit you can pay to go in, and that's fun and air conditioned. They have Build-A-Bear. They also have a little playground that's free, that's indoors. It's pretty small, but our kids still really like it.
Yeah, so. But I mean, I think our oldest is too old to go in it, but he still goes in it.
I mean,
I think it's like 7 and younger, maybe.
I don't know,
maybe
but
10 and younger.
There's always older kids in there too, and the kids still think it's super fun. So,
yeah, theater, restaurants.
Yeah, there's so in Scottsdale there's something called the Odyssey Aquarium. We have actually never been to this because we don't like to support I don't know what do you even call it? Like, because they had dolphins, and I don't think they have dolphins anymore because they died. Or do they still have dolphins?
I have no idea.
I don't know. We don't support it. We don't visit SeaWorld. We don't do any of that stuff. Our kids have been there on field trips, like with summer camp or school, but we personally have never been. So, the other thing, if you're coming in the summer, is you want to wear layers because it's incredibly hot outside, but air conditioning inside is actually pretty cold to me. Dwayne doesn't agree.
I will definitely not wear layers. I'm always hot.
If you're not always hot, you want to bring a sweater, okay? The other thing that's different about the desert in the summer is that it does not really cool down to a comfortable temperature at night. So there isn't a lot of relief. And so even at night, it can still be like 100 degrees at 10 p.m.
Yeah, which is no fun.
Yeah, so factor that into if you're planning like outdoor nighttime activities. You can also leave the Phoenix area and drive up to higher elevations where the weather is better in the summer. And again, next week's episode will be on a few trips like that you can do.
Yeah. But if you come during the summer, just please do not plan on hiking. There are so many people that think they can hike during the summer and then are airlifted from the mountain or wherever it is.
Yes, people die every year. And it's usually tourists who have gone hiking and are just not prepared for the heat. So please do not do it. Like people might say on online threads, oh, you'll be fine if you get up early and you get out at like 5 a.m. and you bring a lot of water. And maybe that's true, but also maybe it's not.
I mean, it is true if you get up at 5 a.m. and you're done by, 7 a.m.
But keep in mind that it's still like probably in the 90s between 5 and 7 a.m. So make sure someone knows where you're going if you're going to do it. But we do not hike here in the summer, and we live here. So
yeah, it's just stupid.
Don't do it. Okay. Other two things to consider are going to be where to stay and what to do while you're here. And those things kind of go hand in hand because Phoenix is huge. It's super spread out. So if you're coming for a specific reason, I would recommend staying near wherever you need to be for that reason. You're very likely going to need a car. So we do not have good public transportation at all. The only exception I might say here is if you're staying in Tempe or Old Town Scottsdale and you have no plans to really go anywhere else. Then I think you can easily get by with like Ubers or Lyfts or, maybe an airport shuttle if the hotel has one. And then that would be fine. Scottsdale and Tempe Scottsdale is pretty walkable. Tempe, it depends where you stay. And to give you an idea of how big Phoenix is, how big is Phoenix?
I mean, it's pretty big. So from the west end of Phoenix to the east end of Phoenix, you're looking at probably a 45-minute drive. But if you go, to like the East Valley, which is like Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, you're looking at probably an hour drive. And traffic here.
And that doesn't include traffic.
Yeah. Traffic here can be pretty hectic.
And Dwayne means an hour drive, like on a highway.
Yes.
So it's pretty far. So I think here's what might be helpful. So I'm going to list off kind of like the main areas of Phoenix that someone might want to stay in if they're coming here to visit. And then we'll talk about a few of the more popular ones. But I've really come up with like 7 kind of main areas. Let me know if you think I'm missing anything. So number 1, we have downtown Phoenix. That is where Chase Field is. If you're here for like a baseball game, Talking Stick Resort Arena, which is where the Suns play.
And the Mercury.
Oh, and the Mercury. Okay, thank you. Concerts, entertainment, Phoenix Science Center, like all of those are in downtown Phoenix. So if that's your reason for coming, that's when it would make sense to stay there. I will say though, like there are parts of downtown Phoenix that are not super safe. So you just want to be careful.
If you're in the heart of downtown, it's safe.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. But like let me give some background. So I moved to Phoenix from Orlando, Florida. Phoenix is way bigger than Orlando. And in Orlando, one of the fun things to do on the weekend is go out downtown. And you've been downtown Orlando with me once, and it's pretty fun, right? They close down the streets. It's a great time. Yeah. So when I moved to Phoenix, I went out in downtown Phoenix, and I quickly learned, this is not where you go out for fun. Like we literally had to call the police, and that was like my first month living in Phoenix, and we had to call the police because there was a guy choking a girl on the sidewalk, and I was just like, what is happening?
Yes, there are some
again,
bad
this was
parts. 2011.
Yes,
it's definitely
I will
changed.
say it's improved.
The downtown scene is up and coming.
Yes, that's true.
It is getting way better, even for food and nightlife, but
okay, so the second area would be like Scottsdale. So shopping, nightlife, a little bit ritzy is kind of the Scottsdale vibe. Tempe is the third one. That's where ASU is located. It's a big college town. Mill Avenue is the main hub on the weekends there for like college partying, I would say. The fourth area would be Glendale. Glendale is kind of far from the downtown Phoenix area. Really the only thing that's there is the football stadium. So that's where the Cardinals play, the Arizona Cardinals.
Hockey team used to play there, but now the hockey team has moved to Utah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So I think if you're coming for a football game and that's the only thing you're really going to do here, you should stay near the stadium. Paradise Valley is another kind of popular area. That's really more for like golfing and hiking. So if those are why you're coming, I would look in Paradise Valley. And then the last area is going to be Chandler/Gilbert, which is on the east side of Phoenix. Those are like more family oriented suburbs. They both have fun downtown areas that I would say have a more mature vibe than like a Mill Avenue.
Definitely fun, but definitely small.
Oh yeah,
Like,
small. Like when I say downtown, like don't think city. Think
Yes.
like a main street.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think that of those areas that I just listed, tell me if you disagree, but the three most popular and common ones for people to stay are going to be downtown Phoenix, Scottsdale, and maybe a little bit of Tempe.
Yes. I would think Scottsdale would be number one.
It for sure is, yeah. So those are also the most central areas. And so I also think like if you're going to a football game or you're going, somewhere in Chandler Gilbert, like those are also really good places to stay because they're very central and they're like a good jumping off point if you have to visit, another part.
I mean, if you decide to go to a football game and stay in Scottsdale, you're going to pay a good chunk of money for like a Uber.
If you don't have a car, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a car.
Yeah, because it's a good 30, 40-minute drive.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you a few hotels in each of those areas. I do want to call out, though, that there are a ton of hotels bookable by points in the Phoenix area. No matter who you have points with, IHG, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, etc., you're going to be able to find something. We're only going to touch on a few in each of those three locations that we talked about. Most of these are properties that we have either stayed at or at least been to for one reason or another.
Yep.
So downtown Phoenix, where personally I would stay, is the Hyatt Regency downtown Phoenix. So this is obviously bookable with Hyatt points. It's a category 3 hotel. So points will range anywhere from 9 to 15,000 points per night. If you have any Hyatt category 1 through 4 free night certificates, you can use those here. And I've been to this hotel several times for various events, and it's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah,
it's
if
in
you're
a good
here
location.
For entertainment or a game, basketball or baseball, it's walkable to those stadiums and
Yeah. Yep.
So.
If you have Marriott points, I would either do the Westin Phoenix or the Renaissance Phoenix downtown. If you have IHG points, there's really only one option I would consider in downtown Phoenix, and that's the Kimpton Hotel Palomar. And then here is one that I think deserves an honorable mention, and it's a Hilton. But this is not downtown, but it's a property that has a ton of history. And so it is called the Arizona Biltmore, and it is a Waldorf Astoria resort. I've been here for work conferences, and the history of the property is actually really interesting. In fact, maybe we should do a whole episode on this, but basically the hotel opened in 1929. It is said that the tequila sunrise was invented here at the bar in the 1930s.
Wow.
U.S. presidents have stayed here. Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe, dignitaries, like a lot of famous people have stayed here. And they even offer in the hotel 90-minute walking tours of the resort with a historian, which I think would be actually pretty interesting. And the design of it was influenced by Frank Lloyd Wright. And you can book it on points.
Wow, 90-minute tour at a hotel. It's crazy.
Yeah, it has a ton of history. You can even go onto their website and get like a brief rundown if you want. So again, that one is not in downtown Phoenix, but like I've even heard people say that is like a bucket list property for them. And the fact that you can book it with Hilton points is pretty cool. Okay, let's move on to Scottsdale.
So if you choose Scottsdale, Scottsdale is fairly big, but if you're visiting, you likely want to stay in like the Old Town Scottsdale area. This is where there's a lot of little shops, clubs, restaurants, Fashion Square Mall, which we touched upon earlier, which has a ton of really high-end shops, Louis Vuitton.
Like shops that make you give them your name before you can enter.
Yeah. I mean, we went into one shop one time and they looked at us like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I was wearing like leggings and sneakers.
And I had basketball shorts
we
on.
just turned right around and left. Now, not all shops are like that, but they have like a high-end wing.
Yeah.
So
the farther north you go in Scottsdale, the more ritzy it is, more snobby, I think. But whatever, Scottsdale.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's a lot of people, a lot of bridal parties come here for bachelorette parties.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's cool if that's your thing. But yes, if you like clubs and partying, and Scottsdale's the place to be.
Yeah. A couple of hotel options. So I'm going to break it down again by like hotel brand. So starting with Hyatt, the only Hyatt that's walkable to Old Town Scottsdale is the Hyatt House and the Hyatt Place, Old Town. They're like literally the same property basically, but there's Hyatt House and Hyatt Place for whatever reason. They're both category 3 hotels. They're going to be fairly basic, as most Hyatt Houses and Hyatt Places are. But the other options that are a bit more luxurious, they're a bit outside of the Old Town part of Scottsdale, but still super doable if you have a car, or you can take an Uber or a Lyft. So those are going to be the Andaz Scottsdale,
which is a really nice property.
The Royal Palms,
another nice property,
which we have stayed at, and the Hyatt Regency Scottsdale, which is currently being
renovated
and will be rebranded to be a
Grand Hyatt. Yes. This is definitely family friendly hotel.
The last one. Yeah. So the first two, the Andaz and the Royal Palms, I would not stay at with kids. Probably. They're definitely more geared for like a couples getaway or a girls weekend. But the last one, the Hyatt Regency Scottsdale, which is going to become a Grand Hyatt, that is the one I would stay at with kids if I were coming here. It's super family friendly. They have a lot of activities that you can do with kids. We did a podcast episode of, I don't know, a month or two ago, because we stay there every summer for a little staycation.
Yes. Kids love it.
All three of the Hyatt hotels we mentioned are category 6. So, cannot use any of your free night certificates, but, you know, obviously can still book any of them with points. The Royal Palms, I do think, like, it also has a lot of history. So similar to that Hilton that we talked about. And it's super unique. Like, a lot of the rooms are kind of like little casitas, and you stroll down these little walkways to get to your room. It's very charming. And presidents have stayed there as well.
Yeah, it's tucked in right at the base of Camelback Mountain. Very, very nice property.
Yep. Super good service.
Yeah.
Moving over on to Marriott in the Scottsdale area, there is a Scottsdale Marriott Old Town, and then the W Scottsdale. So I've actually done yoga and been to a couple of other events on the rooftop at the W. It's nice. Like, they have a rooftop pool. It's nice. It's a great little hotel. And then they also have the JW Marriott Camelback Inn Resort and Spa, which is a mouthful.
Yes, which I've never been, but I've heard it's a pretty nice property.
It's a very nice property, and same with the Phoenician. So you can book both of those using Marriott points as well. Again, those are a bit outside of Old Town, but again, still doable with a ride share or a car. And then the IHG, I mean, this is probably not where I would stay, but they have a Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Old Town. And there's also a Hilton Garden Inn in Old Town if you have Hilton points. So you can make any of those work. But if you're wanting like luxury, you want either the Royal Palms, the Andaz, the JW Marriott, those sorts of hotels. The last hotel I want to talk about for Scottsdale is also super good for families, but it's kind of hard to book on points. You can do it, but it's probably not going to be the best value. That hotel is the Fairmont Princess in Scottsdale. Especially over Christmas, they have like an incredible Christmas setup for kids and families. They basically turned the hotel, like the whole hotel, into a magical winter wonderland. There's ice skating and lights and cocoa. And you can use points to book this one of two ways. But full transparency, I don't think I would do either one of these for points. The first option is Fairmont hotels are bookable using Accor points. Accor is ACCOR. These are kind of hard to earn within the United States, but they do have transfer partners of Capital One and Citi Thank You points. So if you have Capital One miles or Citi Thank You points, you can transfer those to Accor. However, they transfer at a 2-to-1 ratio. So meaning 1,000 Capital One points would only get you 500 Accor points. So it's not good. And then to book, you need at least 2,000 Accor points, which again is 4,000 Capital One or or city points transferred. And every 2,000 points only gets you $45 off of your hotel reservation. So I did the math, and for a hotel that costs $450 a night, you would need 20,000 Accor points, which would actually equal 40,000 Capital One points, right? Once before you transfer them. That is not a great deal, in my opinion. The other way you can book is through the Chase Travel Portal. And I looked this up earlier today to see how many points this would be. And it was around 43,000 points for one night in mid-December. So the cash rate was around $650. And I could have used 43,000 Chase points to book it.
Yeah.
That's not a good redemption.
Not at all.
So I think if that's a bucket list property for you, like, I guess go crazy. But no, not something I would do. But again, totally up to you. You know, you do you.
All right. Next up would be Tempe. Like she said earlier, it's college town. So when college is in session, it's crazy packed with people. But summer months, it's pretty slow, pretty dead. So where would you stay in Tempe?
So I think, like, I actually only have one hotel on my Tempe list because, number one, I think this is the best place to stay in Tempe. And number two, I don't think a lot of people know about it. And it's a Hyatt.
Yeah.
So.
And let me just add, it's called Tempe, not Tempe. A lot of people like to call
the city. Yeah.
Tempe.
It's Tempe. Okay, so the Tempe Mission Palms is a Hyatt hotel. It is in Tempe, Arizona. This is, in my opinion, the best place to stay, not only for location, it has a great location, but also the service there is fantastic. So this is a Category 3 hotel. It is under the Destination brand, under the Hyatt thing. So if you're doing your Hyatt bingo, this would check off your Destination brand. And here's, okay, bookable with between 9 and 15,000 points a night because it is a Category 3. You could also use a free night certificate here if you have it. And so here's why I think this is the best hotel to book with points if you need to be in Tempe. Number one, they have a free airport shuttle for guests.
Which is great.
Yes. And the hotel itself is like 10 minutes from the airport. It is not far at all.
And I just want to add, they have also complimentary valet. Like, it's free to valet your car there. So if you do decide to rent a car, it's free valet. I mean, obviously,
you tip them.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, number two, the location cannot be beat. You are directly off of Mill Avenue. So you're literally minutes walking from shops, restaurants, and you can walk to ASU from there too. And then number three, we've stayed here more than one time. And the staff is super kind, super welcoming. One time we stayed here when our air conditioning went out. And so we had to like unexpectedly go and stay there in the summer. And then number four, the hotel backs up to what's called a mountain, which is a short but fun little hike. Again, just don't do it in the summer, maybe. You could maybe even do that one in the summer.
Yeah, it's small.
It's a very small mountain.
Yeah, but from the top, you can see Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe. You can...
Yeah, and the entrance to the mountain is like literally in the parking lot of the hotel. So, like the self parking lot. So, it's just, there is no better location, in my opinion, than that hotel. There are obviously a lot of other hotels you can book. There's a Graduate in Tempe, which is a Hilton property, bookable with points. And there's a ton of others. It's a huge college town. So, like, parents are always coming in to go.
And I want to just add that the hotel, the Mission Palms, is right next to the light rail. So if you wanted to go to a game downtown or some kind of event downtown, you could stay there and hop on the light rail, which is...
That's true. The light rail is
very
like
easy to use.
The one piece of public transportation we have here that doesn't suck. So, but it only is that the end point, or does it go one more stop past?
The end point? No, the end point's in like Gilbert.
The light rail goes all the way to Gilbert?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like Gilbert and Maine or something. Maybe even farther now.
Oh, that's crazy.
They keep expanding it.
Oh, I had no idea. Look at that. I even learned something on this podcast. Wow. Love that. So yes, the light rail is the one piece of public transport here that doesn't totally stink.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Okay. Anything else?
I mean, again, you just got to reiterate that summertime in Phoenix is
It's
hot,
very hot.
hot.
Yes.
You know, people say it's a dry heat, but when it's 118 degrees out, it's 118 degrees out.
Yeah.
Dry
It
or
doesn't
not.
matter if it's dry. Yeah.
So,
Your hair might look good because there's not a lot of humidity.
Yeah.
But beyond that,
I mean, my hair always looks good.
beyond that, it's still very hot. So I hope this was super helpful. If you are planning a trip to Phoenix or Scottsdale, please find us on Instagram, message us. We are happy to give you like some additional tips and things to do, especially if you're looking for things to do with kids. We would love to chat about that. And next week we will be sharing a few of our favorite both day trips from Phoenix and also like weekend getaways. So think like Sedona, Grand Canyon, Antelope Canyon, Lake Powell, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So let us know if you have any questions and we will catch you next week.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.
Bye.